In this video, I'll be sharing with you how to write an effective resume that books you more interviews, plus I'll be giving you a free resume template and a demo resume for you to keep. Stay tuned. Alright guys, what is going on? Welcome back to another video. Today we are talking about resumes, fun resumes. Don't you love writing resumes? I love writing resumes. I'm just kidding, I freaking hate them, but I'm good at them. Anyways, with all that in mind, let's just get right into it. Now, before I start and show you exactly how to write an effective resume, there are a couple of points that I want to bring up first. Point number one is that the most effective way to get a job is still through networking and knowing someone and landing a referral into a role. Approximately 80% of the jobs that are out there aren't even posted online. So the ones that you see on job boards like Indeed, Monster, wherever you're looking for jobs, that's only about 20% of the jobs that are really out there. A big chunk of the jobs out there, 80%, are not posted online. So keep that in mind. Your resume should not be your go-to strategy when it comes to getting a job. Next thing I want to mention is there's no black and white for a resume. For example, you might go to your uncle who works in HR, send them your resume to get some feedback. They may say something completely different than the career coach that you follow on LinkedIn. So keep in mind, different people will have different advice for your resume. Not everyone is on the exact same page. And with that being said, I want you to know that your resume does not need to be absolutely 200% perfect. I've seen so many people, especially job seekers, they're spending hours and hours perfecting their resume so that they get all the ATS words right, attending every resume workshop and webinar to make sure everything is right on their resume. But I want to remind you, your resume does not need to be perfect. It just needs to be 80% there. Basically, the thing that's going to get you in a job is the referral. In my opinion, the most effective time to use your resume is in those moments where you land a verbal referral through someone and the person says, hey, send me your resume and I'll see if I can get you in. That is when you give them a resume, and that resume you give them does not need to be 200% perfect. It just needs to be good enough so when they're looking through your resume, they can have an understanding of what you are all about. So keep that in mind. And of course, I'll be walking you through a demo resume, and I'll be also giving you a template resume. You can access those templates and demo resume down in the description below through the Google Drive folder link. So as you see in front of you on your screen, there is a demo resume, and I'm gonna walk you through exactly from top to bottom how to write an effective resume that will book you more interviews. So as you notice at the top over here, we have the person's name, John Doe. By the way, it is not a real actual person's name, okay? We have accounting, finance, procurement. These are ATS terms, which I'll explain later in this video, so keep that in mind. But underneath the name over here, you'll notice I included a couple of things. I included the address, the phone number of the person, the email, and also a LinkedIn URL. Now, here's the thing, you always want to include your address because, you know, for example, when I was working in the recruiting space, I would scan through thousands of resumes within a day, and I would spend about like 5 or so seconds scanning through each of the resumes. And one of the big factors I look for when I was scanning through a resume is whether or not that person was in commutable distance from the actual workplace itself. Hence why you need to include your address in your resume. But I've also heard people aren't comfortable giving away their exact address online. In that case, if that sounds like you, then you can just leave the exact city that you live in. So you don't have to go into the specific address. But again, I do recommend you include the city that you live in at the top right over here, as you can see. Coolio, cool, following me so far? You also want to include your LinkedIn URL as well. Now, when you are including a LinkedIn URL, I'd recommend you go on LinkedIn and create one of those like custom LinkedIn URLs, because when you include those basic standard LinkedIn URLs, it's full of like ones and O's and letters, and it's just a lot. So I'd recommend you go on LinkedIn and then you create an appropriate LinkedIn URL. Awesome. So we went over this portion over here. Let's go into the education section for a second. Now, a lot of people ask me, should education section be at the top or should it be at the bottom? Here's my take on this. If you're trying to get into an entry level role that really relies a lot on your education and what school you went to, then you should include your education section at the top. But if you're applying for a role and school's been like 10 years ago and you barely remember anything from school sucks, then I'd recommend you include your education section at the bottom of your resume. Now, how do you actually write an effective education section on your resume? Well, my friend, let me show you. So as you can see over here, this is an example of an education section. You'll notice over here, honors of Bachelor's of Accounting, co-op Dean's honors. So you want to write down the type of education you received. In this case, this particular individual named John Doe achieved an honors Bachelor's of Accounting, a co-op, wow. And they also achieved Dean's honor roll. They studied at Funny University, haha. You'll notice here as well, they also included notable courses and notable achievements. A lot of resumes that when I look over them, they don't include the actual stuff they studied or any relevant courses. What you can do to help your resume stand out is include a section where you write down some of the most relevant courses you've taken in school that's relevant to the role that you're applying to. I'd recommend keep about 5 max and list them down over here as you see in front of you. Down here, you also want to include your notable achievements. So in this case, this particular individual, they reconfigured a company's entire financial infrastructure, including payroll, taxes, filing, checkbooks, in an experiential learning project and ended up getting a 95% on their project. Like, think about it. If this person's going for an entry-level role and the recruiter saw that, they'd probably be like, oh my God, I want to, this person's kind of qualified, so let me go after them, right? All right, so let's jump back up and talk about the summary of qualification section. This is how I want you to think about your summary of qualification section. Basically, these are 4 to 5 bullet points that showcase to the employer that you're extremely qualified for the role. Literally imagine as if the recruiter is quickly skimming down your summary of qualifications. You just want to give them an insane first impression that'll hook them in, first of all, and it will show to them, man, I need to hire this person. And again, I would recommend you keep about 4 to 5 bullet points max. Now, when you're writing your summary of qualification section, it's important that you don't include generic stuff. And when I say generic stuff, what I mean is things like, I have great attention to detail, my teamwork skills are amazing, and generic fluff words that look like you're trying to fill up your resume and sound smart, but really they don't say anything. Because the truth is, if you write things like capable of working in a team, high attention to detail, anyone can write that, you know what I mean? So I'd recommend, if you want to include things like excellent interpersonal skills, you back that up with a tangible example along with the result. Basically writing them out in a formula I call PAR, which I will be getting into in a bit. But as you can see over here in this resume, there's technical proficiencies, there's years of experience, and there's certain other accomplishments as well. So keep that in mind. Your summary of qualifications instantly needs to hook in the recruiter, employer, or manager going over your resume and make them think, damn, I need to hire this person. But again, you want to write each statement in what I call a PAR method, which I'll go into right now. So you'll notice these bullet points over here, and they're written in a very specific way. It's not just, I did taxes or I did blah, blah, blah. It's more that I included tangible examples plus results. Again, PAR. PAR stands for problem, action, result. You've probably heard of the STAR method and are probably sick of it at this point, which I guess I am. But you want to follow that formula. So for example, instead of just saying over here in your bullet points, you're able to work in a team, which is fluffy and anyone can say that, you want to apply this PAR formula. So to transform that, what you would do is identify the problem. So instead of saying I worked well in a team, you want to say I managed a team of 6 individuals. So what was the problem? You had to manage people, right? A stands for action. So action is I managed a team of 6 people using a project management software called Monday.com. So again, action, okay? And result is a result. So in this case, I managed a team of 6 individuals using a platform called Monday.com, where I was able to get all my projects and deliverables done 1 month in advance compared to when it was due. So the result in this case is I was able to get the project done much faster. So again, PAR, and you want to use this formula for most of the bullet points that are here. You don't need to use it for every bullet point, but I do recommend that you include that formula for most of the bullet points. And I would recommend about, 3 to 5 bullet points underneath each of this heading. So as you'll notice over here, we have the company's name, and then the title we had while working at the company. On the right side, we have the start date and the end date. One thing I want to mention to you really quickly here, and why it's important, is make sure that you include the months along with the year of when you started and ended. Because trust me, when I was working in recruiting, and this was very frustrating, people would not include the months that they worked there. So me as a recruiter, when I'm scanning through things and I don't see the months, I only see generic years, it makes me think that you're sort of like hiding something from me. And then I get like red alerts going on in my head, and I'm like, okay, this person's kind of sketchy, so I'm gonna move on. So make sure you include the months, because recruiters or hiring managers or whoever's employing you, they want to see how long you've worked in a specific role, and if there was any employment gaps or things of that nature. So do include the months. And one thing I'll also add is that you want to make sure your most recent experience is here at the top, and then least recent experience go down towards the bottom. And this is very important because the recruiter or the hiring manager, they want to basically be able to map out in their head what job you had when, and they want to visually see your career progression. So if you don't include it in easy order, it requires them to do a lot more thinking, and the recruiters, they're too busy. I got too many resumes to scan through. They're literally cavemen and cavewomen. You want to make it as easy as possible for them to map out your career and have an understanding of what you did. So keep that in mind. Now, one problem you might have when writing your accomplishment statements over here is that, hey Alif, how do I figure out what was the results that I was able to obtain? And here's what I have to say for that. If you're struggling to figure out how to include results, which by the way doesn't always need to be I saved the company $3,000 or numbers all the time. In fact, they can be other things. For example, if you've ever increased the customer satisfaction rating at your company or workplace, that is a result you can include. If you've ever got a number of tasks done within a specific amount of time, that is a result. If you've managed a certain number of employees or individuals in your team member to execute on a certain task, that is a result. If you ever created a new idea or a process or a system in the workplace, that is a result. If you ever increased efficiency in the workplace in any way, that is a result. And lastly, if you ever solved a problem in your workplace, that is a result. Now, let's dig a little deeper into accomplishment statements. So what exactly should you write here? There's a couple ways you want to go about it. You want to make sure first all the bullet points you have over here showcase what's called transferable skills for the role. Basically, skill sets you were able to obtain from one role that you can now transfer over to the other role. If you worked in Starbucks and you're trying to apply for some sort of insurance claim representative, your customer service skills are relevant to the insurance representative role. So hence, you can actually include that in your resume, but on these bullet points. But I don't recommend you include things that are not relevant to the role underneath each of these bullet points. Also, you should keep in mind about ATS words. So basically, you probably heard about a bunch, ATS words, figuring out how to hack the ATS system. But basically, ATSs, they kind of work like this. When I was working in recruiting, I had to go on Indeed, and then I had to search, hey, if their resume has these words, make sure you show them to me. On this online application, it's called Boolean strings. You don't need to worry about that. But anytime I had to go and search for resumes on job portals, or anytime I had to go through our own personal database of resumes, I had to first input into the filtering system, if it includes this many years of experience and these words and these titles, then show me the resume. I had to insert that, and if the resumes had those certain key terms that I included in the filtering system, then that resume would appear at the top and it would make my life easier so that I didn't have to scroll through a bunch of resumes. And for you as a job hunter, you want to figure out what those keywords are so you can include them in your resume, and hence your resume is more likely to be caught by the dreaded ATS system. But question, how do I find out what the ATS words are? Well, my friend, it's very simple. Basically, go on a job hunting platform like, let's say Indeed in this case, and let's say you're trying to become a digital marketing specialist. What you want to do is open up a number of digital marketing specialist job descriptions and go through each of the job descriptions and try to identify technical terms and also terms that keep repeating between each of the job descriptions. In this case, since we're looking at digital marketing specialist job descriptions, certain words like A/B tests, nurturing, campaigns, SEO, those terms might be coming up a lot. Hence, you want to include those terms in your actual resume. Or if you're trying to get into accounting, open up 3 accounting job descriptions. Try to find common keywords and technical words that keep appearing between each of the job descriptions. In this case, they may be ledgers, forecasting, budgets, whatever you damn accountants do. I love you, accountants. Do I? I don't know. And based on that, you want to include those key terms on your resume and sprinkle them like fairy dust around your resume. So that's how you figure out what kind of things or action points or bullet points you want to include in your resume. Now let's go down to the leadership experience, aka volunteer experience, aka stuff you never got paid for. So people sometimes write leadership experience or volunteer experience. Honestly, they're the same thing. Go with whatever you feel confident. In this case, I want to show them I'm a leader. So I wrote leadership experience. Ooh. But they're literally, the way you want to write this is literally the same thing as I mentioned over here. But you also might want to include points over here or roles that you had as a volunteer that showcase to the employer that you're a well-rounded person and that you don't think about accounting or marketing all the freaking time. So keep that in mind. So for example, let's say you like to run for the Heart and Stroke Foundation, or you volunteer in an animal shelter and you take care of animals. You want to include that stuff in your resume, again, to show the employer, hey, I'm not a freaking robot who does accounting all the time. I actually have a life and I have different interests. So that's actually a benefit. So keep that in mind. As for the bullet points in the volunteer experience, I'd recommend you include bullet points that are relevant to the role that you're trying to apply to. And then of course, down over here, we got the certifications and achievements. In this case, this particular individual got their CPA, the CFA, and then CPR and first aid and CCCBB, whatever you accountants do, damn accountants. You want to write down certifications and achievements over here in this section. Next is technical proficiencies. Generally, if you are familiar with a number of softwares, then you want to write them down underneath technical proficiencies. I, in this case, wrote down languages and technical proficiencies in one, mainly because I was also running out of space for this resume. But again, there's no black and white rule when it comes to formatting your resume. So I can write, if you speak 20 different languages, you can even write another section that says languages and write down your 20 different languages that you goddamn know. And there you have it, friends, how to write an effective resume that will book you more interviews. Keep in mind, I will also be including a link to this exact demo resume that you see in front of you right now as of this moment. I'll also be sharing with you this resume template that you can use. Basically, it does all the formatting for you, all the font sizes, all the spaced margins, all the colors. All you really need to do is just plug your stuff in and literally make your resume writing life so much easier. Because you love writing resumes, right? And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe for more videos like these sent your way. And of course, follow me on Instagram and on LinkedIn for more tips, or heck, you just want to see what I'm doing with my life. Until then, I will see you in the next video. Peace out, my friend.